more and welcome to Mart TV. You might recall I did a test on my old Ruger 722 compared to a Tikka T1X the other week, and as we saw in the video, the T1X came up probably more accurate across the board, with one exception, and that was the 42 grain Winchester Max sub, whereas the Ruger actually did shoot tighter than that by about 0.2 of an inch, which is quite impressive when you think about it. Since then, the importers of Winchester ammunition have sent me a new batch of the 42 grain Max sub, and I notice it is a little bit different compared to the original that I've been using for a long time now, which is an excellent bunny basher. You can push out to 100 yards with it, do body shots, head shots at 50 and 60, and I had a real problem with it. So I just thought out of interest, I would compare the two, because often when a new batch of ammunition or packaging comes along, can be some significant differences in performance and what else. And also, you can see here, this blue box is the original Winchester 40 grain subsonic, which I call the bucket nose, because it was the first subsonic round to really offer a massive cavity, which does help on expansion. The 42 grain Max carries energy better, and I just thought out of interest to see how this old timer compares to the other two. On the left is the 40 grain original hollow point subsonic from Winchester. As you can see, it does have that exceptionally large bucket type nose. In the middle is the 42 grain Max first issue that also follows the same, almost the same cavity size, although as you can see, the cavity on the 42 grain round is deeper than the one on the 40 grain round. And on the far right here is the new 40 grain Max. You see the cavity is a lot smaller, and the bullet is also a bit more waxy. If you look at them in more detail, the ogive of the 40 grain on the left is noticeably tapered, and on the original 42 Max it's a bit more straight walled, and then again it goes back to being slightly tapered, a little bit different. Speed wise, as you can see here, they quote 1065 feet per second for both of these loads, and this one is round about 1020 or thereabouts. All the rounds fed very well in my Ruger, no problem at all, and ignited well. There's the usual what I call poppers and crackers, where you get the occasional round that comes out of the box. It's either under or overpowered, and it's very annoying, but that's what all 2.2 rimfire cartridges do. It's to do with the amount of rounds they make. Sometimes you have a nice group going on and you hear a crack or a pop, and all of a sudden one round will step out, which is bloody infuriating, but that's the way it is with 2.2 rimfire. Everything was shot at 50 yards. So let's take the original, the 40 grain load. Maximum speed was 1,112 feet per second. Minimum was 991 feet per second, with the average of 1,003 feet per second. Standard deviation was 8.1 feet per second, which is pretty good. And it shot, I was a bit surprised, not happily, a 1.103 inch group, which I think it could have done better, but that's how it shot when we tested it. Energy was 90 foot-pounds. So in many ways, around to velocity and energy, it's a very standard 40 grain sub. Next up, the 42 grain Max, the original, and that was a high velocity maximum of 1,069 feet per second, a minimum of 1,035 feet per second, and an average of 1,057 feet per second. So obviously a little bit noisier. Those subs aren't a real problem with a decent moddy on. Standard deviation was 13.1 feet per second, which for a rimfire round is pretty good. Energy was 106 foot-pounds, and you can see that the extra 2 grains of bullet weight add 16 foot-pounds of energy, which in a 2.2 rimfire type situation is significant. I've always found that the 42 grain to be a much more effective killer. And the group was a very, very pleasing 0.543 inches. So that's the old one I've been using for years. Not at all surprised, as those are the sort of figures, give or take, I've been getting. Right, we now go on to the new one. which was the same but different. If that sounds Irish, it probably is. Maximum speed was 1,088 feet per second, pretty high for a sub, because that started to get towards being much noisier. And again, you could hear the distinctive increase in noise. Again, not bad on the ear without any earmuffs on, but certainly there. Minimum was 1,019, average was 1,059 feet per second, and SD went up to 32, which is quite high. If you think SD is half of the extreme spread, that means your extreme spread on this round is 64 feet per second, which is, again, significant. Energy was 106 foot-pounds, again about the same. And the group was slightly bigger, 0.793 inches. But still, well sub 1 inch. Out at 100, the 40 grain subload, well, they don't make it anymore, but it wasn't shooting that well, I'd say, sort of 3 to 4 inches. And the best I got out of the old sub was probably 1.75 inches, not a bad group, good enough for body shots pretty much. With the new one coming in probably just a tad more, but again, if you shoot enough rimfire, you'll see a pattern forming. You can open a box of rimfire and some of the figures are slightly different from the next box. So, the thing to do is, if you're going out 50 rounds, just check where your group is and everything, so it goes from there. But however, it's good to see that they're still making the round. The other thing, a little bit different, is because it's new, I thought they'd get all techie on not using any plastic and things, whereas the original heavier max bullet and the 40 grain standard sub, they came in a plastic tray with individual compartments, which is quite a nice way you can count your rounds in or out. On the new stuff, there's just a plastic pull-out box inside with the rounds just dropped in, which is how a lot of companies do it with just straight cardboard packaging. So there's a little bit of difference there. But from my point of view, I'd always prefer the 42 grain max to the lighter ones because of carries best energy. And overall, it was an interesting little test, nothing too exciting, but the ammo's there. It's well worth a look. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that little ballistic test. If you did, tell your friends, comment, support the website. And if you need to speak to me, it's the usual pmore.shootingsports@gmail.com. And I look forward to seeing you again soon with some more stuff. Take care.